During the winter phase of the Russia-Ukraine war, Moscow appeared to commit fully to a strategy centered on systematic attacks against Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Operating on the assumption that prolonged blackouts, heating shortages, and civilian hardship would generate sufficient political pressure to force Kyiv into negotiations. This approach intensified throughout January, culminating in several large-scale strikes against Ukraine's capital and other major cities, including a significant attack on January 20th that involved ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, and at least one hypersonic Zircon missile, temporarily disrupting electricity, water, and heating systems in parts of Kyiv, despite Ukraine's largely effective air defenses. Russian officials openly framed these attacks as a form of coercion, signaling that continued pressure on civilian infrastructure would narrow Ukraine's political options, yet the results on the ground suggested that while material damage was real, the anticipated collapse in public resolve did not occur. Ukraine's vulnerability was compounded by legacy Soviet-era infrastructure, particularly centralized district heating systems that rely on large thermal plants, making entire neighborhoods susceptible to outages when a single facility is damaged, a structural weakness Russia has repeatedly exploited. By late January, hundreds of thousands of Kyiv residents faced unstable access to power, and emergency crews worked continuously to restore basic services, underscoring the human cost of the campaign. However, rather than compelling submission, these attacks reinforced Kyiv's determination to respond in kind, consistent with earlier warnings from Ukrainian leadership that strikes on Ukrainian cities would not go unanswered. That response materialized on January 25, when Ukraine carried out what Russian regional authorities described as the most extensive attack yet on Belgorod Oblast, a strategically critical border region that has served as a logistical hub for Russian operations since the invasion began in February 2022. The strike, widely assessed to involve HIMARS-launched munitions, produced dozens of explosions and targeted the Belgorod thermal power plant, a facility responsible for more than a third of the city's heating supply, temporarily cutting power, water, and heat for an estimated 115,000 residents. From a military perspective, the attack demonstrated Ukraine's growing ability to conduct precision strikes deep into Russian rear areas, undermining Moscow's assumption that border regions would remain relatively insulated from the war, while also sending a clear deterrent message that energy warfare would be reciprocated. Belgorod's importance extends beyond civilian infrastructure, as it functions as a transit corridor for troops, equipment, and electricity supporting Russian forces in eastern Ukraine. Making it both a symbolic and operational target. The reported use of long-range Western-supplied systems raised questions about evolving U.S. approval mechanisms, particularly regarding ATACMS missiles, though official confirmation remains absent. As in previous incidents, Russian authorities claimed high interception rates, a narrative that contrasted with visible damage and local acknowledgements, highlighting the persistent gap between official statements and observable outcomes. Taken together, the January exchanges marked a shift toward a form of mutual escalation in which energy systems, logistics, and civilian endurance became central instruments of pressure, suggesting that while diplomatic channels formally remain open, both sides are increasingly focused on shaping leverage through infrastructure warfare, rather than moving toward immediate compromise. If you found this analysis useful, don't Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth coverage of global conflicts and security issues. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.